Charlie, what surprised you about the acting nominations this morning?
I was really surprised that Denzel Washington actually got in for Roman J. Israel Esquire. I thought that was going to be, one of those performances that, yeah, we saw turn up at the Globes and SAG, but I just did not think it was going to translate because of how badly reviewed the movie was. Time makes fools of us all, and I was but I still was very surprised about that, and but not quite as surprised about Leslie Manville. Those were the only two nominees that I didn't predict. And I almost put in Leslie Manville last night because I just seen Phantom Thread over the weekend, and it was striking me. It was very striking to me how, despite whatever issues I may have with the movie, whenever she's on screen, she's just in command of everything. Yeah. And you're just like, okay, I am interested in you and everything that you do. So, good for her for finally breaking in and becoming an Oscar nominee.
Anything else surprise you, Kevin?
I love the Leslie Manville nomination. It's very inspired. I guess it is kind of surprising that Three Billboards managed to break a however many year, 26 or something, yeah. 26-year trend of having double nominees in one category, or in supporting actor, I should say. Didn't think it was going to be for this. Like a few months ago, I thought it might have been for Call Me By Your Name, but here we are. We'll get to that in a moment, of course. But I mean, Christopher Plummer getting in is kind of a huge, unique deal for me. It's easily the quickest performance that was ever just kind of assembled and put out there. He's now the oldest acting nominee ever at 88. That's huge. And the fact that he has 3 nominations now, all of which I think were in his 80s that he got them, is kind of inspiring. It's like, never give up. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing about those 3 Billboards nominations is that, like, double nominees is something that happens at SAG or at BAFTA or at, like, various other awards. But because the Oscars, they have that ranked system where, they count the number 1 votes first, and then they might not count the number 2 votes at all. So then it makes it so hard to, be the second person in your movie and then ride those votes out. And even like with No Country for Old Men, which went on to win Best Picture, Best Ensemble, Best Supporting Actor for Javier Bardem, they couldn't get in Tommy Lee Jones, even though he got the BAFTA and the SAG nominations. So like there have been many times where films have seemed formidable and like they've tried to get the second nomination and they failed. What do you think, Zach?
Well, yeah, I'm kicking myself because I was trying to put Denzel and Leslie Manville in my predictions, but I would have taken out somebody who ended up getting nominated anyway. So, I mean, it's just a catch-22 either way for me, I guess. Nothing, those didn't surprise me. They weren't out of left field, and, neither did Christopher Plummer. When he showed up at BAFTA, I said, okay, this is really happening. What's interesting about that, the stat that's been broken by Harrelson and Sam Rockwell is that we had 3 movies this year that could have conceivably done that. The other 2 being The Shape of Water and Call Me By Your Name. And unfortunately, one of those got completely skunked. I don't know if Armie Hammer and Michael Stuhlbarg pulled votes from each other that much in order to ensure that both wouldn't get nominated, or if, as we saw, Call Me By Your Name just kind of underperformed in general with the nomination. So maybe it was not as beloved as we at first thought it was going to be. But it's fascinating that this stat gets broken this year, and Three Billboards is the movie that does it. I think it speaks a lot to the popularity of Mr. Woody Harrelson, who he makes every movie better, including this one.
Kevin, you want to say something about Call Me By Your Name?
Well, yeah, the Armie Hammer and Michael Stuhlbarg train is over. I mean, I kind of feel really bad for Armie Hammer more in particular because I think he really wanted this. I mean, he's been campaigning like crazy for like a full year for this movie, and for him to not get in is just kind of sad. And I mean, the Stolberg thing I sort of understand more because he's not in the movie a lot. He only has the one scene at the end. But I don't know, for them both to be snubbed is a little bit sad. I mean, I'm happy that at least the movie was nominated for picture, and it didn't get like caroled, for example. So, but other than that, yeah, I'm just kind of sad for the both of them. It feels a little incomplete without them.
Poor Michael Stolberg. I mean, what does this man have to do to get a nomination for something? I mean, he was in 3 Best Picture nominees this year. And I mean, I think, yes, he only has the one scene really in Call Me By Your Name, but it's such an impactful scene. I mean, I think for a lot of people, it serves as a sort of wish fulfillment scene, you know, to have a parent be that understanding in a moment like that. You know, and it really is part of where the greatness of the movie lies. So I don't know. I think maybe they just kind of, I think it was just an issue of the popularity of the movie overall. I can't think of any other alternative for it. I think they were just kind of barely there.
I think that the momentum just kind of ran out. I mean, we sort of saw this coming with the SAG snub of Armie Hammer, but then when he also missed at BAFTA, even though the film got in for picture and director, I think that was, like, to me, the final nail in the coffin. I'm like, okay, this isn't happening. And it devastates me because Call Me By Your Name is my favorite movie of last year, and I absolutely love that movie. And I'm just, floored that Armie Hammer didn't get in for this. I thought he was magnificent. But there's other things to be upset about too. Let's spread the misery around. Why don't we? I'm probably going to get some shit for saying this, but okay, whatever. I'm kind of disappointed that, only because of the performance. I am disappointed about James Franco being left off here.
Oh,
I've seen The Disaster Artist twice.
Mm-hmm.
I do.
And
I love it.
I mean, that performance is so central to everything that is so wonderful about that movie. Although I'm really happy the writers got in. I'm really happy that the screenplay got in. But, what's interesting about this is that, when they write the history books about this year's Oscars, most people are probably going to write that the sexual harassment thing is what cost James Franco the nomination. But it's important to point out that I think when those the day after the Oscar voting ended, I believe 2 days after the Golden Globes. Yeah. So I don't think there was enough time for that to really bubble up the way that it did and to really affect him. So there was something else going on here, and just them just not responding to this movie and specifically his performance.
I think what it was is that it was always a 6-person race for this prize. And I think that I agree with you, Charlie. I thought he was brilliant in the movie. And, I think that you are able to hold 2 opposing thoughts in your mind at the same time. On the one hand, you can say that what he was accused of doing is wrong. And on the other hand, you can say he gave a really good performance in the movie. I don't think that one has to be in conflict with the other. So send your hate mail to in care of. Anyway, I think that it was always just sort of a 6-person race. And Denzel is just I mean, I think a lot of people were upset that he lost last year for Fences. And I think that there was a lot of residual goodwill there and wanting to nominate him again, especially considering who he lost to. And if that had been a year later, I don't think he would have lost to Casey Affleck. So I think that was a little bit of making up for what happened. And also they just really liked the performance in spite of how so-so the film was, to put it gently.
Also, Fences is the exception for Denzel Washington. Like, he's not normally in movies that are nominated for Best Picture. It usually is something more like Roman J. Israel, Esquire, very long title, where it doesn't have, maybe any other nominations.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's funny that you're talking about a 6-person race because it kind of excludes Tom Hanks as well.
Well,
It's this guy who was very popular with the Academy back in the day, but
back in the 90s.
Yeah, but
17
lately
years
just
ago.
not at all. What does he have to do to actually be nominated? I feel like he has to stop playing like American heroes, basically, because that's kind of what he's been in recently. So maybe just has to play an awful villain.
Well, I think
serial rapist it is.
Yeah, that's what it comes to.
Yeah. He could play Harvey Weinstein in the Harvey Weinstein story.
Oh, that'd actually be pretty good.
Yeah.
Talk about a transformative role.
He'd be in a fat suit and everything, but he could actually pull that off.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, if only the other reason why I really wanted Franco nominated is I want Tommy Wiseau at the Oscars.
Yeah.
I want Tommy Wiseau and Tanya Harding presenting at the Oscars, and they robbed that from me. So
I know.
How dare you?
Well, they still have the writing nomination, so they can stretch it.
Please let this happen.
I'll say about James Franco, like, he didn't get in at BAFTA, and like, it might be because maybe, like you said, Charlie, it's not just the allegations, but also maybe there's something about the performance. Like, it is based on this very cult movie, which, even though it seems like everybody on the internet has seen it, maybe it doesn't really appeal to like a larger group, like the actors branch of the Academy.
Or also, it might be something where cultural differences between the countries. I know The Room has gotten cult status in a lot of countries. I don't know about Britain, but it just may not have resonated on that level there.
It's also interesting that I don't know if this has ever happened, at least not in my lifetime, where the Best Actor race has 2 people in their 20s. Timothée Chalamet and Daniel Kaluuya. And if you were to add Franco in there, who's just shy of 40, I think, this would have been a very young Best Actor race. So I don't know. I guess one of the young guys was vulnerable. I think Gary Oldman, if he wins Best Actor, might be the 2nd or 3rd oldest person to ever win Best Actor, if I'm not mistaken. He's just shy of 60. So I remember Michael Keaton was about to be the 2nd oldest if he won for Birdman, and he was 63 at the time. So middle age is the right range to be in if you want to win a Best Actor Oscar. Go over to supporting like Christopher Plummer if you want to do it when you're an octogenarian.
I'll say perhaps the most surprising nomination in the acting categories to me was actually Mary J. Blige for Mudbound. But I guess Netflix has cracked through now, and Mudbound got 4 nominations. Although I was expecting or predicting that like Bright would also get into makeup and Okja into visual effects, but at least they're here now.
And hallelujah, thank you, God. I was so afraid they were going to punish that movie just because of Netflix. And I mean, this is huge for them. They have the ability to say now, come to us, we can get you Oscar nominations. I don't know. I'm not predicting Mudbound to win anything currently. Although, I mean, it could be a threat in like adapted screenplay, yeah, or song perhaps. But I mean, just the fact that they are nominated speaks volumes. I think you have to probably thank the new membership for that, probably. There's probably a lot of people who just joined the Academy who have no aversion to watching a movie for the first time on Netflix.
All right,
now it's interesting that it actually translated, because this goes beyond the acting categories. But when I saw, I had the opportunity to see Mudbound on a big screen, and I thought to myself, anybody who's seeing this, on just like on their tablet or on their laptop or even just on their TV is not going to really get the full experience of this. And I thought that might cost it. in a category like cinematography, especially a category like that. So, I mean, it's really good for them for making it in there.
What do we think about the 4 acting frontrunners? Because, you know, they all won SAG, they all won the Golden Globe, and they all won Critics' Choice. At this point, I feel like Allison Janney is actually the one who is most in danger, if there is one, just because I, Tonya really underperformed. We saw from the guilds that, you know, they had all seen it, they all like it, but it seems like there's actually not very much passion for the movie, as it only got lead actress, supporting actress, and editing.
I would be more worried for her if she weren't Allison Janney. I mean, I think that she's, you know, she's done a really masterful job campaigning for this. I mean, you could not meet a nicer woman in your life. And I think that when people see the movie and see her in real life, they are amazed by her range in it. What could help Laurie Metcalf theoretically is if she becomes the win for Lady Bird. Because it's dicey for it to win anywhere else. I think screenplay is probably its best bet, but even there, it's competing against Get Out and Three Billboards and Shape of Water. So its chances there are pretty edgy. So if Metcalf becomes the win for Lady Bird, then she can be a threat. But I think in order for that to happen, she's got to win at BAFTA. And I, Tonya, is much more popular at BAFTA than it is at the Academy Awards.
And I actually think that actually I, Tonya underperforming actually helps Janney's chances, because if they're not looking to reward it in actress or editing, then the supporting actress is the way to go, and she's pretty much solidified her frontrunner status. So that just gives even more incentive for people to vote for her there.
I'm really looking at, so the BAFTA Awards are on the 18th of February. That is 2 weeks away from the Academy Awards, and it is 2 days before, according to my calendar, when final Oscar voting starts. So that's really the last-ditch effort that any of these people have to try to take this award away from one of the 4 frontrunners. And the 18th, that is 1, 2, 3, about 3.5 weeks away from now. So that's a long time for people to be thinking about and wondering, well, do I really want to vote for, I don't know, Sam Rockwell, for instance? Do I like Three Billboards as much as I thought I did? Well, I don't know. Do I really want to vote for Allison Janney or Frances McDormand, or, you know? So, I mean, there is room for wiggling here. But at this point, I think unless something happens on BAFTA, there's no point to really predict anybody else.
So what you're saying, we need
schmooze in the meantime.
Yeah, exactly. We should be twiddling our thumbs. And
so what you're saying we need to do is we need to attach Laurie Metcalf to a catapult and just fling her across the Atlantic Ocean over to England.
Yes.
And just land on the doorsteps of BAFTA voters.
Exactly. Yes. Laurie Metcalf, stop shooting Roseanne.
I'm gonna drop schematics for this right now.
We need to do that with her. We need to do that with Willem Dafoe. Let's see, Margot Robbie and
Timothy Chalamet.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing about Willem Dafoe is, like, the Florida Project didn't show up anywhere else. Yeah. So Sam Rockwell seems kind of safe. And then Gary Oldman, like, Darkest Hour got into Best Picture. So I don't know.
Let me ask you something. And this guy's not nominated at BAFTA. So this is just, we have to pick him blind, basically. Richard Jenkins is, you know, a veteran actor, and he's in a very popular movie. If they wanted to give an acting award to The Shape of Water, then he could be a logical choice. But like I said, they left him off of BAFTA for Hugh Grant and Paddington 2. So we really would be flying blind here with that.
I would love that to happen, because also I think he's more sympathetic, certainly, than Sam Rockwell is as a character. That would be a good acting choice. But I also want to throw my hat in for Sally Hawkins because could happen at BAFTA, hometown hero, Brit, something like that.
They'd be my personal picks. I remember watching the SAG Awards and they showed the clip of Richard Jenkins talking to the fish man in the bathtub. And I thought, how great of an actor do you have to be in order to talk about the direction that your life has taken in your 70 years on the planet and do it convincingly to a man in a green suit. I mean, talk about a tour de force of acting. If I had a ballot, that would be who I voted for. Don't kill me anybody else.
It's actually interesting because I always think back to the 2008 race, and as much as I love Mickey Rourke and Sean Penn, I would have voted for Richard Jenkins in The Visitor. I thought he was fantastic in that movie. But I would love to see that. I think that would have been a more relevant argument for SAG rather than the Oscars. But supporting actor has done that, where it's just like seemingly out of nowhere, a veteran person will win this. So I think that it's possible, but I'm not counting on it.
I'll tell you what, I'll move him up to second because SAG, they didn't nominate The Shape of Water and Ensemble, so they weren't that hot on the movie in the first place. It also didn't nominate Octavia Spencer. The Academy likes The Shape of Water a lot more. And then once Sam Rockwell defeats, his various Oscar competitors at BAFTA, we'll know that he can take them down with a large Academy group like that. So the only person untested will be, who we're talking about right now, Richard Jenkins. Yes. So by default, he will be second.
I hope that happens. That would be my favorite one of the night.
That would make the evening for me. I would be like, I don't care about anything else that happens.
And it's because he's the kind of actor who's just been around for so long, and he didn't even get any kind of recognition like this until he's 60 years old. And arguably he should have been getting this kind of recognition for a long time. He's been so good for so long. He's like one of the.
Well, I think back to like when I first saw him, the first thing I remember seeing him in, of course, was 6 Feet Under, playing the father on that. And there are so many instances of where he should have won, or at least been nominated for a guest acting Emmy. But he's also really great accepting these honors. And the one instance that we have to go back to that is when he won lead actor movie mini for Olive Kitteridge. And he was the only thing I could stomach about that movie. He was, but I love when he won it. It was presented by Lady Gaga, and he's holding this Emmy, looking at this huge audience. He just goes, "That was Lady Gaga."
And wouldn't it be something if it was him and Frances McDormand again winning on the same night?
That would be fantastic.
Yeah. I was just thinking that scene in Burn After Reading, again with Frances McDormand, where he's showing her the photo of him as an Episcopalian church priest, and he says, "In a lot of ways, I was much happier back then."
So we've heard it from you then, and you can tell us later, like, I told you about Richard Jenkins.
I know. If there are any Oscar voters watching this right now, please, you don't have to vote for the frontrunner. You can surprise us. You can vote for Richard Jenkins. In fact, you should vote for Richard Jenkins.
FYC.
Okay. Do you have any final thoughts on the Oscar nominations, Charlie?
None except we're still kind of exciting. It's still kind of exciting to see what's going to happen, and with a longer Oscar season, there's always room for an upset or two.
Kevin?
I agree. I'm really excited for Best Picture and Screenplay and a lot of technical categories. Really, honestly, acting is kind of what I'm least looking forward to because it's so predictable. But I would love an upset. Richard Jenkins, Laurie Metcalf, whatever. Just do something different in one of these acting categories. That's all I ask.
Is that?
Well, I'm interested to see what happens, mostly just because we have this long period before Phase 2 voting starts, 3.5 weeks, or closer to a month from now. So I mean, I don't remember the last time that's ever happened, and where we've also had SAG and PGA already announce their winners, and Globe, then Critics' Choice. So there's not a lot that's going to give us any kind of indication if the winds are blowing in a different direction. If all of a sudden, say, Get Out is the best picture frontrunner, just to choose an example. But yeah, I'm interested to see if there is any kind of fluidity in this Oscar race.
Yeah, we'll just kind of have to wait to see if any more sexual harassment stories break.
Right. So be on your best behavior, Oscar nominees.
We'll see if that derails Kobe Bryant. I will shed a tear for Jessica Chastain and also for Hong Chow. I have not seen the movie, but I have to support my fellow Chows. Okay.